So I know I've been talking about Pittsburgh being a majestic city architecturally. Take a look at this. It's now a restaurant, but this used to be a train station built in the early 1900s. It's called the Grand Concourse now, but it's right on the river. And I don't know if there's a better spot for me to introduce 49ers Steelers grades than my final stop in Pittsburgh. So let's walk out so I'm not bugging these people in this fine dining establishment. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, thanks a lot. You can see all the details here around me, and you can see all the memorabilia on the walls. When I walk out here, you will see Pittsburgh and the downtown area. I guess it's going to be a little too bright right now, but just give me a second. You can see the setting of where we just were next to what they call the Smithfield Avenue Bridge. And it opens up to downtown Pittsburgh. Now the whole train station aspect of it, we walk here. I said Grand Concourse, there you go. And here are the old tracks. Anyway, I got 49ers Steelers grades, so I want to get right to them because I'm going to have to get to the airport. We can find a cool spot to do these grades right here against the water, probably, maybe by that old caboose over there. Let's go check it out. I will start with quarterbacks. Brock Purdy, he gets an A. Intermediate passes, look at those numbers for Brock Purdy. 9 of 10, 142 yards. Now, intermediates I define as throws that travel in the air between 10 and 20 yards. So Brock on throws between 10 and 20 yards, he's been awesome throughout his entire NFL career. Last year, in fact, Brock Purdy had the highest completion percentage of any NFL quarterback on PFF's record. Loud air conditioner here, let me walk a little bit further. But in 2022, on those throws between 10 and 20 yards, Brock Purdy was at 80% completion percentage. PFF has never recorded anybody higher. Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow are numbers 2 and 3. So yesterday, Purdy was at 90%, which obviously is even better than 80%. Not bad. I think we're going to walk back and forth, though. I want a little bit better lighting. If Purdy can be this damn good with the intermediates, the 49ers offense is going to carve people up. There's not going to be a question about what they're going to do. I mean, Patrick Peterson thought that he could jump one of those middle throws from Brock Purdy yesterday, and he got close in the first quarter, but no cigar. And most of the time, guys were just running wide open for the 49ers because the scheme is so effective. When they can run, which they did yesterday, it sets up so much of what they can do in the passing game. And Purdy has to execute. It's not, guys might be open, but it's not easy to pull all the strings from the quarterback position. As we've seen when quarterbacks not named Jimmy Garoppolo or Brock Purdy are at the helm. So that's what made Brock's performance so good yesterday. He was so masterfully in charge of everything. He was confident. Coming off of an elbow injury, that's not a small deal. It's kind of like how he came fresh out of bed last year against the Dolphins and looked so confident. Brock Purdy can play, and he can orchestrate what the 49ers want to do at that quarterback position confidently, despite the fact that he's relatively inexperienced at the NFL level, but he's got plenty of college experience, and despite the fact that he's coming off of a major injury. So big props to Brock Purdy for how well he played yesterday. On top of everything that I'm talking about from an intermediate throwing perspective, Brock Purdy showed us 2 new skills that might have been lacking last season. And that was the ability to throw very accurately off of a roll to his left, which I've talked about all off season, being Brock Purdy's one of the biggest weaknesses, right? The roll to his left last year, I mean, it was to the point where that was his only glaring weakness. He was bailing the pocket early. Teams decided, hey, this might be something that we can capitalize on. We're going to force Brock Purdy to flush to his left and see if he could beat us that way. And I think that for the most part, he was way less efficient on those throws than he was with anything else. Well, yesterday, perhaps the most spectacular play from Brock Purdy came when he was forced to his left, right? And he flipped back around and fired a ball to Deebo Samuel accurately to pick up a third down. That was very, very impressive, and it clearly bookended and took care of one of the biggest weaknesses that we said Brock Purdy needed to address over the course of this offseason. Then there was the scramble in the fourth quarter. Oh, look, we got a train coming by just as we were at the old train station. So the scramble in the fourth quarter was, that was taken out of the vintage Steve Young playbook. Purdy rolls right, is using his eyes, and he's using the threat to throw to keep the defense frozen in place. Because if he can pull up and throw it any second, well, and guys' legs on the back end who might be trying to otherwise tackle him, they're going to be stuck in cement. And, using that deception, Brock Purdy was able to combine that with his burst, and we know he has an elite 10-yard burst. Those of you who haven't watched the show, maybe you're a first-time viewer, this is a fun fact you need to know. Brock Purdy's 10-yard split of his 40-yard dash was just 1/100th of a second slower than Lamar Jackson's. So he doesn't have great 40-yard speed, but Brock Purdy has the twitch. He's a twitchy athlete. He's got really good 10-yard speed. And that good 10-yard speed, well, he puts it on display at the right times. That's how Brock Purdy is faster than Trey Lance as a scrambler, because he knows when to turn it on, when to turn it off. He knows when to accentuate his strength, which is that twitch, and he's smart. He also knows how to use his eyes to manipulate the defense when it comes to scrambling. So, this is not a limited quarterback. This is a quarterback who has carved defenses up on intermediate throws, which is a lot further than dink and dunk range or whatever the hell people want to call it. And he's a quarterback who is much more athletic than the 49ers' number 3 overall pick, who was supposed to be a dual threat, who's no longer with the football team. So the time to put Brock Purdy into a box is behind us. Anybody who is capable of smart football analysis, who's able to see what's actually going on the field, will recognize that Brock Purdy is a quarterback who actually raises the ceiling of the offense because of his athleticism, because of his ability to extend plays. And obviously the floor is not low because he's able to execute the bread and butter, which are those intermediate passes in Kyle Shanahan's offense. And I really wish that this train wouldn't be as long as it is, because it's probably a little bit annoying to watch in this video. Oh, great. Now there's the second one. Just our luck, right? As we're going through the grades for the 49ers. I guess that's what I get for starting my update from a train station. By the way, if you just joined, you need to rewind to the start of this video. The inside of that building where I started, awesome. A great example of just the epic architecture that we see here in the city of Pittsburgh, one of the great American cities. The steel industry built a lot of the might here downtown in Pittsburgh, and they certainly built a train station, which is now a nice restaurant, to befit the reputation that the rest of this city had architecturally. I even found a bench here. Maybe it'll be a little bit quieter on the bench as we sit down and chill, go through the other grades. Running back. That's going to be an A for Christian McCaffrey. 152 rushing yards for Christian. That is the highest total as a 49er for Christian McCaffrey. Now, this is a double whammy, by the way. There's 2 trains behind me. There's also a train in front of me, or now behind me as I spin around. So Pittsburgh really loves their trains. I guess we're on the middle of a lot of freight lines. Anyway, Christian McCaffrey, 152 yards, 65-yarder, put the game away. I was just in a bar here in Pittsburgh where they said exactly what I did when I wrote the article yesterday about the 65-yard run. The Pittsburgh fans thought they had some hope at the point of the snap of that play, because they had just scored the touchdown leading in the halftime. Second play, coming out of the half, 49ers blocked it perfectly, and then Christian McCaffrey is obviously electric. That spin move to shake Levi Wallace, and then the cut at the end, or 2/3 of the way through with the cut. So spin plus cut plus dive. He is just sublime. Christian, he's this perfect combination of power runner and he's twitchy as hell. That's what Spencer Burford said in the locker room. He's twitchy as shit. So he's so twitchy, but he's also powerful. So he's essentially the dream prototype for Kyle Shanahan's offense, right? And when you just watch McCaffrey run, and then this is before we were even talking about the propensity to be a receiver for Christian McCaffrey. You see all of these abilities, and you're like, well, this guy was built to play in this offense. So he gets an A yesterday. He had never attained more rushing yardage than he did with the 49ers than he did yesterday. 121 was the previous high. Elijah Mitchell, a couple good carries for the 49ers as well. Wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk absolutely owned Patrick Peterson. Now, Peterson made a couple good plays. You got to give him credit. He almost got the interception that he predicted. I think that the tells that Patrick Peterson was talking about came on passes over the middle, but never did he come close to intercepting a pass intended for Brandon Ayuk. He broke his ankles on the touchdown early on from the red zone, and then it was decent coverage from Patrick Peterson on the second touchdown, but Brandon Ayuk was just better, and it was a perfect back shoulder throw from Brock Purdy. So, and Deebo Samuel, they couldn't cover him either. So far, straight A's for the 49ers, right? There's not much more you can ask for from Samuel, from Brandon Ayuk. I don't think Javon Jennings had a catch. I think that Peterson actually broke up one of the passes intended for Jennings, but boy, were the 49ers impressive across the board in the pass game yesterday. Tight end, B+. The only reason it's a B+ is because I have high standards for the 49ers, and I should have higher standards for this train. I'm going to start crossing the bridge because I have to get back to my hotel, and that means the reason I have to get back to my hotel is because I have a flight to catch back to San Francisco. So I'm trying to squeeze this grade show in for you guys while I show you Pittsburgh. Tight end, B+. George Kittle had a play where Alex Highsmith beat him that I know George Kittle's going to kick himself about. You look at the preparation for this game, the 49ers, you look at the preparation for this game, George Kittle watched a lot of Alex Highsmith tape. He was really, really impressed with how good Alex Highsmith was as far as effort went, as far as combating the run game. And he knew that it was going to be a strain at times. And there were a couple times when Highsmith got the best of him. That being said, Kittle had what might end up being one of the biggest 49ers catches of the season. And that was the fourth down catch from Brock Purdy early in this football game. Kyle Shanahan showed enough confidence in Brock Purdy to throw the football. He showed enough confidence in Kittle to, run what I thought the 49ers put on tape on that 4th and 1 early in the game with the crowd going crazy. The 49ers had put on tape that they run in those situations. And Kittle crossing the formation, you saw Highsmith, he stepped up to Kittle as if he was going to have to absorb a block from Kittle. But then Kittle just blazed by him, and Purdy had the throw to make that converted the first down. So that's a money play. George Kittle, money receiver, fought through a little bit of a groin issue to be out there, was effective. The only reason I give him a B+ is that it wasn't completely perfect in the run game, but it was damn good. And Kittle, on the play that really mattered, the 65-yard touchdown to Christian McCaffrey, he blocked Highsmith very effectively. And you can go ahead and check out my article on that run. It was Kittle who got Highsmith. It was Trent Williams who got Minkah Fitzpatrick, wildly impressive as well. And the 49ers really delivering a masterclass in run blocking when it truly mattered in this football game. All right. Why? I think it's time to get up to the bridge right now, isn't it? Yeah, we can move on to the offensive line. B- is my grade. And it's complicated for the offensive line. B- is an aggregate grade because I thought that Trent Williams was really good. He wasn't perfect, but was really good. I mean, blocking Minkah Fitzpatrick on that 65-yard touchdown to Christian McCaffrey is an insanely difficult ask. You're asking Trent Williams, who's 318 pounds, to take care of somebody who's like 210 at most. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, well, he took care of it in space. I mean, it's a block that very few tackles in this league can make in space. Normally, the smaller guy's a little bit nimbler, right? Trent Williams is as nimble as safeties, at least linebackers, it seems. And he's smart, so he can put himself in the right position. He also pass protected well, mainly Highsmith working against Trent Williams on that side. Impressive stuff. Aaron Banks, awesome game for Aaron yesterday. clean sheet pass protection-wise for Aaron Banks. The run blocking is just absolutely rigid. I thought Jake Brendel was solid as well. Got pushed around a couple times in pass protection. So anyway, up to now, it's probably an A for the 49ers offensive line, right? Well, the problem is that the right side of the line was an issue. Colton McKivitz is going to need to be a whole lot better. Gave up those 3 pressures yesterday. 3 sacks, 5 pressures. Spencer Burford gave up 5 pressures. Larry Ogunjobi has worked Spencer Burford on a snap, and it just can't happen like that, especially on the interior line. If it happens with some of the elite edge rushers, that's one thing, because Brock Purdy can see, right? Brock Purdy's in a position where he'll be able to hopefully sidestep the edge rusher. I know yesterday that wasn't the case every single time, but it's one of those situations where interior pressure is extremely, extremely damaging because it's right up on the quarterback. Yes, he can see it, but he doesn't have time to react. You can see and react when it comes off the edge. You can't really see and react when it comes off the interior. So Burford's going to have to be better. He struggled as a rookie. The 49ers think he's taken that next step this year. He's going to have to prove it. Colton McKivitz, obviously, is going to have to be a lot better as well. This is why the offensive line gets a B- for the 49ers. That's why it's complicated because, they were good on the left side. They were decent at center, but the right side still leaves some to be desired. D-line, dominant across the board. Absolutely dominant across the board. I was very, very impressed with the defensive line, and I think it's going to be a little bit quieter here. I'm always conscious of the viewing experience for you. I know there was a little bit of traffic and wind on the bridge, so why don't I do the rest of the show from down here. D-line, dominant across the board. 5 pressures for Nick Bosa. 5 pressures for 3 for Nick Bosa. 5 for Eric Armstead, 5 for Drake Jackson. But Nick Bosa is the 49ers' highest graded defender on PFF, which tells you something, right? He's absorbing so many of those double teams. Javon Kinlaw was really good yesterday. 2 pressures for him. Whenever Javon Kinlaw can get after the passer the way that he did yesterday, he had a big hit on Najee Harris early in the game. He set a tone. Remember, Javon is not a starter for the 49ers anymore. So if they're getting that kind of production from their second unit defensive tackle, the 49ers are winning. Javon Hargrave's the first team defensive tackle, and he was pushing the pocket the whole game. Eric Armstead is a complete beast. The way that he always disrupts the play from the inside. He doesn't necessarily win, but he still disrupts. When he's healthy, I don't think there's a snap that's not productive for Eric Armstead. Because he could be stonewalled, but he's tall. And with that 6'7" wingspan, he gets his arms up. He had a double team on him on the Charvarius Ward pick, but he still moved the double team back into Kenny Pickett, got the long arms up, and those long arms, they were a big part of the interception that happened there because Kenny Pickett, the hand got right in his face. So this 49ers defensive line took a big step to announce that it might be the best defensive front in football. They certainly looked a lot better than Pittsburgh's yesterday. Linebacker, B+. We already knew the 49ers are the best in the league. Fred Warner showed early, the big hit. Was it Najee Harris, I think? Yeah, it was Najee running early. Fred Warner just identified it, blasted through, made the tackle. Dre Greenlaw was everywhere. I will say that Dre Greenlaw missed a couple tackles yesterday. You could tell he was vocally upset that he missed a couple tackles. He's going to want those back, but boy, it's hard to complain too much. The only reason that I give him a B+ and not an A is because I know the linebackers have such a high standard for their play. The 49ers linebackers do, but across the board, impressive stuff. And a couple missed tackles on the back end. That makes this an A- instead of a B+. Same thing as the instead of an A or A+. Same thing as the linebacker position. Charvarius Ward gave up a 27-yarder to Deontay Johnson, where it should have been a 6-7-yard gain. Turned into a bigger gain because he wasn't able to make the stop in front of him. But boy, Charvarius was great in coverage otherwise. The interception was a heads-up play, held onto the football. Talanoa Hufanga had an interception in Troy Polamalu's house. Troy obviously has been a mentor for Talanoa. Deshaun Gibson was good. I thought Diamador Lenore, that's one of the reasons this is an A- and not an A. The personal foul, which was an iffy call. I thought as Najee Harris was running, there was a defender that went for Najee first that actually notched the tackle. I forgot who it was. I'm trying to remember the play in my head. But that defender ended up pushing Najee out of bounds. But to me, Diamador Lenore had already committed before that initial defender had sprung for his tackle. So, you know, they call it unnecessary roughness. It might have been necessary roughness because I don't know how you expect Diamador Lenore to let up. Anyway, we have those kind of arguments, it seems, every week. It was still a penalty. It still helped the Steelers score their only 7 points of the game. So A- for the secondary instead of an A. Special teams. I don't have a grade written on here. It's a B+. I should have written the grade. That was my mistake. B+, Jake Moody, great. I mean, the first kicker to go 3 for 3 in his NFL debut since Justin Tucker. If Jake Moody turns into Justin Tucker, the 49ers will be over the moon, right? Mitch Wishnowsky was pinning him deep all game long. That was really good as well. Doing good holding work on the kicks for Jake Moody. And Ray McLeod was great as a punt returner yesterday, which is the most dangerous position on special teams, at least as far as those returns go. So the former Steeler was in on it. And, I got to go back up to the receiver grades really quickly before I finish up the special teams grades. One of the reasons why receivers are an A is because they blocked their asses off. And Ray McLeod was obviously part of that on the 65-yarder. But anyway, back to special teams. McLeod, great as a punt returner. 49ers good in the kick return game. That was fine. They only got, one of those opportunities, 2 of those opportunities yesterday because Pittsburgh didn't kick off a lot because the 49ers dominated them so much. The one issue for this football team, for the 49ers yesterday, I thought was some of the kick coverage. I thought that Pittsburgh got some leaky yards in the kick coverage. That's certainly going to be something the 49ers want to improve. Sample's still too small to be overly concerned about it, but I'll give special teams a B or B+ because of that. All right, those are 49ers Steelers grades. If you guys want me to, I can take you to part of this bridge, the Smithfield Avenue Bridge, before we take off, but I know it's going to be louder here. I got to cross, and I got to get to the airport. There's the bridge for you. It was a great time in this city. Now, if this is the Grand Concourse behind me, that's the train station that I started this video in. If you just tuned in, make sure you watch the start of the video. Beautiful architecture here in Pittsburgh. It was a great couple days. 49ers won 30-7. Those are the grades. We are back to San Francisco now. Week 2 against the Rams is next. The 49ers are favored by 8.5 points right now against the Rams. All right, guys. Everybody take care. So long from Pittsburgh.